Nothing done for tort reform, which they were talking about, and I realize I might take off some lawyers or something.
Yeah, you will.
But ultimately, when I say tort reform, Republicans want to go swing it this way, okay? And because I'm all for suing a medical person for negligence. I don't think that's a problem. My wife was bedridden for 3 years out of a now I'm not a lawsuit person, and we never did take it to a lawsuit. But it killed us financially, and I thought, at one point I was so upset because I wasn't getting anywhere. I remember walking into the doctor's office and I just started shouting, "I'm going to fire up an attorney, I'm going to sue you." Well, I got action. They did something. So even the threat of it at least keeps some transparency. But so I don't think you got to swing it over and say, well, we're going to cap it at, but there's got to be some kind of, going from the multi-million approaches, something reasonable. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not like a complete, because I do believe there's a need for litigation. Sometimes you just have to fight it out. Sometimes your life's been screwed up for negligence, and you have a right to do that. So I'm there, so I'm not on the extreme, but they could have talked those things out. Cost controls. Another Republican idea that I really liked was this idea of being able to buy insurance across state lines. What's wrong with that? I had no problem with that, but yet that was just shot down, on the left, and I don't know why they shot it down so much. I'm not sure what the argument was for that. The public option, you guys might think, well, maybe that's the best thing, and I kind of had a little bit of different idea to it. Max Backus had an approach that I liked, and his idea lasted about a week, and it was blown right out of the water, and that was regional cooperatives. And regional cooperatives means you can have cooperative pools of people in the healthcare pool across state lines. Basically, as people went into this to buy the insurance and drive the price down, the insurance companies have to now compete with the cooperative. And the idea, I guess, one idea on cost, what the public option was, it was that you'd have a public option here, and then that would force the insurance companies to compete with the government or public option. Well, the regional cooperatives would have done the same thing. It would have been more people-driven and more locally controlled, which is another thing. The Republicans like the local control, but I like the cooperative nature of it because that's sort of in my blood. I think more people pull together and make their own solution rather than the government forcing the solution is a better deal as well. So I think there's an element of compromise in there that never happened. And so now that we've got something, it's on the table, it's there. I don't think we should go in and fight to repeal it and shut it all down. I think we should go in there and reform it, and let's see if we can craft something that's really going to work for the American people and really going to bring the cost down and really going to make healthcare accessible to as many people, if not everybody in this country. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at on that. So, I guess the long and short of it, we've got what we've got. Let's fix it. Let's make it work. Yeah.
I think one of the greatest problems we have with the health insurance today is that they keep saying we got to keep costs down, but they never say we're going to keep profits down too. Yeah. And I think the biggest problem you have is people that are trying to make profit off of other people's demises. And I think that's what's totally wrong with the system, is that insurance money should go into a trust, and then it should be paid out according to what needs to be done, and not be paid out to somebody's stock market portfolio. And I think that's the biggest problem we have with health insurance.
Yeah.
Is that it's been put out there as a business to make money off of people's demises. And I think that's what is the problem with the health insurance.
There's two criticisms that came from the right on universal health care. And the one criticism was that we have healthcare rationing. Healthcare would be substandard. And you can look at places like Canada or England or something like that, where they have sort of a national health service. And they made that criticism, and true or not, and there are waiting periods and stuff like this, but one thing they never ever would reference is the German system. And I'm familiar with the German system or not, but it's similar to what we have in the way. There's lots of private insurance carriers. There's lots of doctors that will say, well, I work with these 10 insurance companies, or whatever. But the insurance companies, there is a profit capitation on it. They work basically all as nonprofits, but their CEOs are making money. Everyone's getting paid. It's not like they're not. There's an employee thing, but there's not this mass profiteering going on. And if you would examine the German system, which is universal, you would find they've got a better system than we do. Their healthcare is better. The delivery is better. And so people go, well, you'll have rationing stuff. Well, Germany doesn't have it. It doesn't have the rationing like some of these other national health services do, and it's because they're managed privately, but not for profit. And it really works there. Now the only ones there are some complaints there. So the doctors do complain that they're not making enough because their salaries by the insurance companies, what they're willing to pay out, their salaries are lower than what a doctor would get here. That's really the only people in Germany that complain about it are some of the doctors. But you want a specialist, you hear the Canadian thing, oh, you got to wait a year to get your hernia operation or something. You can get into a specialist within 3 days in Germany on average. Can you do that here? I don't think so. Well, maybe up in Cache Valley you can. We've got a lot of doctors in Monterey. But yeah, 2 or 3 weeks. When I was in Arizona, it was 6 months sometimes. Yeah. So different parts of the country. But in Germany, they're very satisfied with the system. And I don't know how much examining of that system we did, but all I know is they just said, you want to be like Canada, you want to be like Canada. And one more thing on healthcare, and this is another thing that I'm not sure, it's a both party thing because once again the money gets involved. Big Pharma produces, say some kind of a medication. And they put the medication out and they have a 10-year, basically exclusive rights. And then they sue and sue and sue, and so then they go another 10 years keeping the exclusive rights. And they're doing that a lot. They do that in lots of the designer drugs that are very popular, okay? I don't see the problem. If you have Europe with very high protocol standards and Canada with very high protocol standards, why we can't buy medications from those countries? You see, all of a sudden that puts Big Pharma, the Big Five or the Big Three, into competition and forces them to drop their prices down. They're still making billions of dollars. They're not going to hurt. But yet we can't buy a pill, from Canada legally. I mean, to me, that's ludicrous. All those countries that I'm talking, the European Union and Canada, have protocols as stringent, if not more stringent, than ours. So, I'd say, okay, bar Mexico, they don't have the good protocols. But what about Japan? What about places that do have good, solid regulatory protocols? Why don't we allow those in? That just makes no sense to me.
That is one area you could challenge Rob Bishop on, because I was at a town meeting a little over a year ago, and he got up and said, the solution for education is more privatization and vouchers, and because anywhere you have a market, it works wonderfully and it lowers prices. So my hand went up and said, okay, so then you must favor John Kerry's plan to allow drugs to come in from Canada. Well, no, that's a different area. It's really not the same.
Yeah, well.
He was kind of put on the spot, I think, by the whole idea in that, because he was all for it if it was his little special thing, but not for something else in that. So he has been very much opposed to having drugs come from Canada.
Well, anyway, that's just another thought, another idea, and I think it would save a lot of, maybe we ought to have, Canadian bus tours for the people. You're probably have your little trip to Canada, save you on your prescription, and you can get it'd be kind of fun like that. So, we could maybe have like a little First District Joy Bus to Canada to get your medications. I don't know, but that's another thing. When I say Big Pharma, they've got a lockdown on that on Congress, and obviously Rob Bishop's like, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, why? Why aren't you going to do that? Well, that's just reasonable. That is market, and it's safe. It's not like you're giving taking something from Bangladesh or something. You can still say we're only approving these countries with these protocols. But once you did that, once you had, Germany sending stuff in and Canada, prices would get very reasonable on some of this stuff. So, thoughts, questions?
Thank you so much for coming, Morgan.
Anyway.